There are moments when loneliness doesn't knock. It doesn't introduce itself, doesn't wait for permission. It just appears, sometimes quietly, like a shadow stretching across the floor at dusk, sometimes suddenly, like a cold gust that slips under the closed door. You weren't expecting it. You didn't prepare for it. And yet there it is, sitting inside your chest, as if it always belonged there. We talk about loneliness as if it only comes in empty rooms, but it arrives in crowded spaces too. It shows up in conversations where your smile is automatic, in friendships where you feel out of rhythm, in relationships where the words don't land the way they used to. Loneliness isn't always the absence of people. Sometimes it's the absence of feeling understood. There are days when nothing is wrong, technically, but something feels strangely distant. You can't quite name it, can't quite explain it, can't quite anchor yourself anywhere. It feels like the world kept moving, and you stayed behind by a few invisible steps. Everyone else seems plugged into something: purpose, belonging, connection, while you hover slightly outside of your own life. This is the loneliness that arrives without asking, the kind you don't choose and don't necessarily want to admit. We grow up learning how to hide loneliness. We learn to fill every silence, distract every ache, scroll through every uncomfortable pause. We learn to pretend we're fine because fine is easier than I don't know why I feel disconnected, or I don't know how to make this heaviness go away. But loneliness, when ignored, doesn't disappear. It settles. It buries itself under routines. It becomes a quiet companion you never invited, but still carry everywhere. Loneliness isn't a flaw in your character. It's a sign that something inside you is reaching for warmth, for understanding, for real presence, not the digital kind or the forced kind, but the kind that says, without words, you are not wrong for feeling this way. Loneliness is the echo that appears when your inner world doesn't match the outer one. It's a message, not a verdict. Sometimes loneliness surfaces because you've outgrown a space, a friendship, a dynamic, a version of yourself that no longer fits. Sometimes it emerges because life is quietly transforming you and the people around you haven't caught up yet. And sometimes it's not about others at all. It's your body asking for rest, your mind asking for silence, your heart asking for patience. You're not breaking, you're adjusting. There's a strange tenderness in loneliness when you finally stop running from it, when you sit with it, not to suffer, not to drown, but simply to listen. Loneliness, when listened to, becomes honest. It tells you where connection is missing. It tells you where presence has become performative. It tells you which parts of you feel unseen, which emotions you've neglected, which truths you've postponed. It reveals what you've tried so hard to outgrow without knowing how to begin. The loneliness that appears without permission is the same loneliness that teaches you what kind of life you're meant to build. It teaches you what kind of company actually nourishes you. It teaches you the difference between being chosen and being tolerated. It teaches you the difference between people who hear your voice and people who understand its weight. It's not punishment, it's a recalibration, and it's okay to admit that you want connection. It's okay to say that the silence feels too big. It's okay to miss people who once made you feel seen, even if they're no longer part of your story. Wanting closeness doesn't make you needy. Wanting understanding doesn't make you fragile. Wanting a place where your soul fits doesn't make you unrealistic. It makes you human. One of the quietest truths about loneliness is this: you don't need someone to fill it. You need someone who can sit with you in it, someone who doesn't rush you, doesn't demand clarity you don't have, doesn't try to fix you, doesn't make you feel dramatic for having a human heart. Someone whose presence feels like warm light instead of interrogation. And until that person arrives, you can be that presence for yourself. You can speak to yourself kindly. You can take yourself seriously. You can hold your own tenderness the way you would hold someone you love. That is not loneliness. That is partnership with your own soul. Loneliness will come and go. It is not a permanent state. It is a visitor, not a destiny. And every time it arrives uninvited, it also leaves a clue, a direction your life is trying to lean toward, a truth you've outgrown avoiding, a new shape your heart is learning to take. Loneliness is the doorway to connection, not the opposite of it. If you're still here, it means this kind of loneliness isn't theoretical for you. It's familiar. It's something you've felt on days where you couldn't explain the heaviness, in moments where no one did anything wrong, yet something inside you quietly stepped back, as if life moved 2 steps ahead without waiting. So let this second part be softer. Not an explanation, not a solution, just a space where you can finally acknowledge what has been echoing inside you. Begin by noticing your body, the way your chest lifts when you breathe, the way your shoulders sit, the way a subtle heaviness lives behind your ribs. Loneliness is not just emotional, it's physical. It shows up in the breath that doesn't go all the way down, in the tension in the jaw, in the way you feel separate from the moment you're in. Ask yourself gently, when did I first feel alone today? Was it in the middle of a conversation? Was it after a message you hoped for didn't come? Was it while scrolling through people who seem present in a world you feel distant from? Or did it arrive quietly, without a scene, without a reason, just the sense that something inside you was missing something unnamed? Let that memory come. Don't judge it. Just notice it. Now think about the kind of loneliness that doesn't look lonely from the outside. The loneliness that shows up while you're surrounded by people. The loneliness that appears even with someone sitting next to you. The loneliness that arrives in a room full of voices because none of those voices seem to touch the place inside you that actually needs company. Ask yourself, what part of me feels unseen right now? Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, human way. Maybe it's the part of you that needs gentleness. Maybe it's the part of you that wants to be heard without having to explain. Maybe it's the part that doesn't want to entertain, perform, or pretend you're okay. The part that simply wants to exist beside someone who understands without asking. Let that truth rise. Loneliness often appears when you're growing, and the world around you hasn't adjusted to your new shape yet. It arrives when your soul is changing rooms, but the people near you are still speaking to the older version of you. It arrives when your intuition deepens faster than your relationships can catch up. It arrives when you stop abandoning yourself and suddenly see who has been abandoning you. Ask yourself quietly, what have I outgrown without admitting it? Maybe it's a connection. Maybe it's a routine. Maybe it's a version of you that once felt comfortable, but now feels too small. Loneliness isn't always emptiness. Sometimes it's growth in disguise. Now, imagine the loneliness inside you as a small light instead of a void. A light you've been afraid to approach because you thought loneliness meant something was wrong with you. But loneliness can also mean that something inside you is waking up, stretching, asking for something deeper, something truer. If this loneliness could speak, what would it say? Maybe it would say, I miss being understood. I miss conversations that feel alive. I miss being met where I am instead of where I used to be. I miss feeling connected, not just included. Maybe it would whisper, I want warmth. I want presence. I want a life that feels like mine again. Let whatever answer comes be enough. Now think about how often you've tried to fill loneliness with noise, distractions, scrolling, overworking, being on for others, staying busy enough to avoid hearing the quiet truth that waits when everything else fades. But loneliness is not asking to be drowned. It's asking to be understood. Ask yourself gently, what need have I been ignoring beneath this loneliness? Maybe it's the need for rest. Maybe it's the need for deeper connection. Maybe it's the need to speak your truth without softening it. Maybe it's the need to slow down long enough to notice what you've lost touch with inside yourself. Loneliness often appears when you're disconnected from your own heart first, before you even realize it. It's not a punishment. It's a signal, a compass pointing inward. Now picture yourself sitting beside your loneliness instead of fighting it, not trying to solve it, not trying to outrun it, just sitting with it, the way you would sit beside a friend. What does that version of you feel like? What would it be like to treat your loneliness with kindness instead of fear? Loneliness softens when it is acknowledged. It loosens when you stop pretending. It shifts when you stop demanding it go away. Ask yourself, what if loneliness is not asking for someone else, but for me? For your own attention, your own tenderness, your own presence, the kind of presence you offer everyone else so easily, but rarely offer yourself. And now, imagine the kind of connection your heart is truly longing for. Not applause, not distraction, not convenience, but connection that feels like exhaling, connection that feels like being understood without having to perform, connection that doesn't rush your feelings or demand neat explanations. Let your mind form one image of what that connection looks like. Hold it gently. You do not need someone to fill your loneliness. You need someone who can sit beside it. And until that person appears, you can be that someone. Because loneliness is not a dead end. It is an opening, a doorway, a quiet reminder that your heart hasn't gone numb. It's still searching, still longing, still alive enough to notice what's missing. And when you listen to it, instead of resisting it, you begin to understand something essential. Loneliness isn't the absence of connection. It's the beginning of self-awareness. It's the moment your heart tells the truth before your life has caught up. And in that honesty, connection begins again. This video is part of a daily path, a space to breathe when life feels heavy, to understand what the heart tries to say quietly, and to reconnect with the parts of yourself you stopped noticing. Tomorrow brings another chapter, another reflection, another gentle pause. If it feels right, come back. We'll continue together, one day at a time. This is Form Within Mind, where calm takes shape